Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we are concluding our first look at the Italian destroyer line, forthcoming to early release in mid-March, by looking over Tier 10 Attilio Regolo. Attilio Regalo is an actual historical ship. The Capitani Romani-class of destroyer flotilla leaders was constructed. They were built, they were laid down, they served their time. This ship was laid down in September 1939, commissioned in August of 1940. Launched in August of 1940, not completed until May of 1942. She didn't have a very long career, but she did actually exist, so definitely nice to see some actual history of the Regia Marina here coming to World of Warships. Now, I do have to make a small correction here. Last video, I was talking about Tier 9 Premium Italian Destroyer Paolo Emilio as if she were a member of the Capitani Romani-class. And I realized after I started kind of making this video and looking at the two ships, like, oops, that's not true at all. Paolo Emilio, very obviously something very different. Or related, perhaps, but not the same ship. So forgive me if you're a Regia Marina nut and I made a mistake yesterday. I mean, you know, whatever. There's a lot of... We're getting close to like 400 ships in the game now, and I ain't going to get them all right, and that's just the way it is. So sorry about that. The Italian destroyer line up to this point has been something of a mixed bag. The Tier 2, 3, 4 destroyers seem okay. The 5 and the 6, honestly, to me, seem pretty strong for the tiers. The Tiers 7, 8, all feel a little weak for the tiers, if I'm honest. And I think Tier 9 is where the line kind of comes together really nicely, and you're like, okay, this ship, in my mind, has a nice, solid identity and a really good main battery and a usable torpedo armament. And so, does that carry on into Tier 10? I feel like it does. So let me kind of go through the ship here. We'll talk about her characteristics, and I'll tell you kind of why I feel that way along the route. Starting as we do, survivability, 26,800 hit points. Yikes, this is a lot of HP. Again, not best in tier because of those pesky Germans, right? Elbing coming in with almost... Elbing has almost as much HP as a Smolensk, right? So, yeah, you're looking at like light cruiser HP over there. But as destroyers go, this is really, really good. There are a lot of ships that you would expect to have big health pools. I'm looking at you, Delny and Habarovsk, Zorki. But even they cap out around 23,000 HP, and I've got about a 10% advantage on them. That's really, really nice. In fact, the next closest ship, not named Elbing, to this health pool is Tier 10 Premium British Destroyer HMS Druid, which has a little over 25,000 hit points. And Druid has her own gimmicks and quirks as well. So for a ship that's basically a flotilla leader and kind of, you know, meant to outgun and be able to wipe out opposing destroyers, you're starting off on the right foot because you have the health pool to support that kind of mission. Do you have the maneuverability and concealment? Let's have a check. 41 knots, 770 on the turning circle, 5.7 on the rudder shift. Certainly the top speed is very competitive. Again, not best in tier because the French exist and because the Russians exist. But way faster than everybody else. And let's be honest, you're probably not going to go courting a gunfight with a Kleber in this thing. I mean, you could, in theory, but I suspect that you won't unless he's low and, you know, he's coming at you and it's like, all right, yeah, I can probably get in there and gun that guy down before his reload booster wipes me out. That kind of thing, yeah, I could see it maybe. But yeah, 41 knots, very competitive. You'll be able to relocate the ship around the board very effectively. 770 on the turning circle, a little worse, a little above average for the tier, but mostly it's competitive for the type of ship you're talking about. When you put her next to, again, the Klebers and the Russian gunboats, this is about where you'd expect it to be, right? They're all in that mid-700 range, more or less. It's the torpedo boats, the stealthier things like Daring and Gearing and such that have smaller turning radii, and you kind of expect them to. And 5.7 on the rudder shift. A little slow, if I'm honest, but honestly, probably not so terrible. Probably not so terrible, you'll notice. And if you really want, you can invest in the rudder shift mod to make that a little better. Now, Import says 9.2 detection on the surface. Let me check my spreadsheet, make sure that's still correct. Yes, they have not changed this number. A full stealth rig, Attilio Regalo will get down to a 7.2 detection on the surface. That is better than Kleber, a little worse than Marceau, better than all the Russians, not named Grozovoy, and basically just highly competitive. Now, again, she's not going to be stealthier than again, the Druid, Gearings and Darings of the world, right? The torpedo boats, the Shimikazes of the world, are going to be stealthier. But against the gunboats that she's up against, she has a small spotting advantage, and that'll be good. She'll need to learn when and when not to accept those gun engagements with those ships, because there are going to be times that you'll be like, oh yeah, I'll take that Cliver on in a fight, and there are going to be times you're going to be like, nope, 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 and you're going to push your little smoke button and just run away and hide. So managing that detection is going to be key to her success. But that smoke, that rolling smoke that she has that allows her to stealth up and keep moving, I think will allow her to do that effectively. And certainly by the time you've played the line up to tier 10, you should have a pretty good idea of how those engagements should play out. Speaking of main battery, let's have a look here. I've got 4 double-barreled 135mm 45 caliber guns. These are the same guns we saw down at tier 9 on Adriatico. Same ballistics, same shells, same everything. So if you played through Adriatico to get to this point, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're dealing with. Maximum range there is 8.5 according to the port. That is incorrect. I was able to fix the main battery ranges on the other ships in the line, but this one has not updated. Let me get you the correct number. It should be about 10.8 kilometers if I've run the math correctly. So you've got a 7.2 kilometer detection and a main battery range that should go out to almost 11 kilometers. I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly confident that's going to be correct. And so, if that does turn out to be correct, just know that 8.5 number is not right now. That number's been buffed. That feels pretty good. It is low, yes, but it is not catastrophically low. For example, Holland has a 10.4 base main battery range. Gearing 11.1. Haberovsk 11.2. So like there's some other ships in this tier that for the first time your main battery range is not going to feel like total garbage. Okay, and don't forget, you can always take that 4-point skill to add to increase the main battery range if you want to, or these kinds of ships, you might actually be forced into it. So, but yeah, that feels pretty nice. And now don't quote me on the 10.8 number, just because I'm not 100% positive that is certain. Let me go back and check the dev blog real fast and see if they give this to me here. No, this says base firing range to 9.8, so I did this wrong. It's actually 9.8 kilometers, not 10.8. So yeah, that's a big change. So it does move up a bit, but not that far. So it is still worse than tier range. Apologies for the confusion, but yeah, nice to see. Yeah, much else I can say there. You'll know what to do with these guns, I think, by the time you get to this point of the line. I've kind of said it all when it comes to beating up destroyers and so on and so forth. That's what they do. The reload is better than Adriatico. We get down to a 5-second reload now, which means that her SAP DPM is competitive with Daring's HE damage per minute. Like, it's competitive with Gearing's HE, competitive with Forrest Sherman's HE, believe it or not. Forrest Sherman's SAP is better, but she also has way better reload, even that's only 3 barrels. So, again, individual salvos, 6 barrels, about the same. You have the possibility to land salvos up to about 6,000 damage a pop on opposing destroyers. But like I was mentioning in the Adriatico video, you need to learn which destroyers that you are not going to be able to pen at all with these shells. Really, it's just Haberovsk and Paolo Emilio and Elbing. But keep that in mind that there are some destroyer engagements out there that you don't want to accept because their armor schemes basically just kind of giggle and laugh at your shells. Torpedoes, a little improvement here over what we saw down at Tier 9. Still rocking the quad launchers here, well protected, as we noticed at Tier 9. Still the same here at Tier 10, up under this little deck bridge. Here I've got some of the launches and a nice crane over it. But these torpedoes, again, on a 90-second reload, out to 13.5 kilometers, 14,000 on the Alpha, 56 knots, and only a 1 kilometer torpedo detection. So that gets the reaction time for the opponents down to 8.1 seconds. That's actually pretty low. Not best in tier, but quite good. And you can actually get that a little lower if you're willing to invest in... actually, do I have the wrong number put in here? No, 6.9 seconds. I'm reading the wrong number. Apologies. 6.9 second reaction time on these torpedoes. And that actually is almost best in tier if you're, other than deep water torpedoes, right? Like Yu Yang gets that under 5 seconds. But for like regular old plain torpedoes, there's not a lot of reaction time in these. They are fairly stealthy to go with that speed. And a little bit of speed buffs, if you take the torpedo skills or the torpedo modules to buff the speed of the torpedoes, that'll get a little better. You'll probably get that down closer to 6.5 seconds of reaction time. Not bad. Not bad. And again, like I said at Adriatico, these torpedoes have enough alpha damage on them finally that you very well could pull a little Paolo Emilio style trick probably and get up and dev strike a potential battleship off the board, as long as you put those torpedoes into the bow or the stern and intentionally avoided dumping them into the torpedo belt, especially if something like a Yamato that's going to laugh off more than half of that alpha damage. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. You've got that quiver in your arrow should it become necessary, depending on your board position and the game you're in. Still rocking the depth charges, down to 8 bombs in a charge, but again, I don't want to spend too much time on that until we have an idea where subs are going, and now is not that time. Still looking crappy on the AA front. Again, all the way up at here 10, still have no long-range aura, still have no flak. You do move out to a 65mm gun here for your long-range aura. You've got 4 of these, 2 on each side of the ship, backed up by 2 of the, by now familiar 37mm guns that we've been seeing. And these little sextuple-barreled Beretta guns, the little 20mm guns, 4 of these around the stack, just like we saw down at Tier 9 for her inner ring. So, I mean, the outer AA DPS bubble is actually pretty good. 154 damage for a mid-range aura is pretty respectable. She'll have no trouble shooting down fighters or spotter planes or something like that wander into her AA bubble, but her AA bubble is only 3.7 kilometers. Like, that's terrible. So she does not have enough AA or anything to dissuade attacks on her. When a carrier comes for you hot and heavy, you're probably going to have to pop one of your little crawling smoke boosts. Keep moving and hope that guy can't lead you effectively because he can't see you. Quick look at consumables, which ought to be the same as we've been seeing down at Tier 9. Yep, it is. Damage control party here. Exhaust smoke generator here for 6 charges, 40 seconds a pop, and then 6 charges of the fancy engine boost here, 25-second duration, 25% speed boost on about a 2.5-ish minute cooldown. So you've got that little emergency speed. You can dump it, but it doesn't last very long. To me, once you develop a playstyle in Adriatico, Attilio Regalo here is going to feel very comfortable. Like what you were doing in Adriatico is going to continue to work in this ship. The main battery is basically the same. The torpedo armament is actually a little better, but for most purposes, all intents and purposes, basically the same. You have the same consumables. You have more health. That's nice. You're a little less stealthy, but you have a little more gun range. All in all, it kind of works out. And so I feel like the ship has some things going for it. Now, one thing I kind of forgot to point out, we talked about Paolo Emilio in the last video has that 60mm strake through the middle here. Regalo does not. Regalo does not have anything more than 19mm of armor throughout. So this is not a ship that can take an engagement with an opposing destroyer and laugh off any of the incoming shells. Like it will feel bad. You will know you've been hit. But with that health pool, 27,000 HP, almost 30 by the time you dump Survivability Expert into the ship, she will have the health pool to probably beat up, I'd say, 70-ish% of the opposing destroyers that she will run across. The trick is going to be you're going to have to use all the cunning and map awareness and everything that you've been working on up to this point in the line to position the ship in such a way you'll be able to take advantage of the tools that Attilio Regalo brings to the table. Because these are, I keep saying it, I'm going to say it one last time, these are high skill floor ships. The Italian destroyer line is not for beginners. They look like fun in their own way, but this is not a line of ships that you want to pick up as a new player and just dive into because you're going to get frustrated very quickly, in my opinion. Anyway, guys, that's our first look now, completed at the Italian Destroyer Tech Tree. They'll be coming out in mid-March into early access. Hope you enjoyed that. Wash your hands, be safe, and I'll catch you next time.